Hey everyone, my name is Gordo, and I do 3D and 3D adjacent things. These brushes I have here were plucked from a rat's tail and are called Kolinsky Sable brushes from Winsor Newton. And we'll be painting this Bulbasaur to see how they compare to my value synthetic brushes. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're a continued subscriber, I appreciate you, and I hope you learned something today. Blake did not have a number 1 brush in stock, so I'll be testing a number 2, a 0, and a 00. The first brush I used was the number 2. The brush was very soft and captured the moisture very well, thus allowing me to paint longer without having to go back to the palette. I only use golden paints for this, mainly So Flat Pop, which I showcased in my last video. Please check it out. The belly of the brush, as I understand, is at the middle of the brush, and you should only dip the brush up to that point to not damage it. It held a lot of paint and flowed tremendously well. What I did notice was that as I painted, the bristles at the tip will flare apart. I'm not sure if this is supposed to happen to the number 2 brush, but this mainly happened to this brush. A simple cleaning and immediate drying of the brush with a paper towel was enough to get its pointy tip back, and this allowed me to keep between the lines and the edges straight. The 0 brush was the most pleasant brush from the 3 and possibly the best brush I ever used. It kept its point longer and allowed me to paint the details and paint them for much longer. There's something I realized while reviewing these brushes. Having to go back to the palette to refill breaks your flow, and having the ability to not have to really makes painting more enjoyable. Did I mention I modeled this Bulbasaur in Nomad Sculpt? You can watch the video by clicking the card above. This tip allowed me to get into the most remote places of Bulbasaur's mouth and get a lot of paint in there. It also gave me the flexibility to paint bigger by just pressing the brush due to its soft bristles, while still giving me the ability to paint with pinpoint accuracy. I have to say, for such a small brush, it held a lot of paint. Did I mention how much paint it held? Yeah, it held a lot of paint. I quite enjoyed making the details of Bulbasaur's eyes. Switching back and forth with broad stroke and pinpoint accuracy was a hell of a lot of fun. Painting the pollen and the flowers and small details was great. I mean, look how small the mini is. I have big hands, but not that big. And you can see the size of the details. I also have to give a shout out to my Elegoo Saturn 3, which is the real MVP of this video, by printing such small details. hit up the nails and the fangs, and they are tiny. A lot of you regular mini painters are probably like, look at this noob, all at the size of the details. But honestly, just go back to my video history so you can see the size of the models I've painted. I genuinely feel like I've leveled up in 3D printing terms. With the base, it was back to the number 2 brush to apply a good base coat. The flowers, I was able to paint with the number 2 and the number 0. But then I stayed on the 0 as it was a perfect middle ground brush for painting minis. I recently bought some Citadel paints, which I will eventually review, and hopefully I can continue to paint minis. But I have to give a shout out to Golden and their So Flat paint line. This is my second time using them and they do not disappoint. I highly recommend them. Okay, so here's finally the 00 making his debut. The tip is tiny and his bristles are very soft. I tried to make the grass and it did not pan out. I think the flaring of the brushes is a characteristic of this type of brush because it happened to the 00 as well. But nothing some water and paper towel can't fix. The little dots on the mushroom were very satisfying to make using this brush. And although I could achieve a lot of these details using the 0 brush, the 00 did a fantastic job. And after a little wash, it kept its point. The 00 brush was great at being versatile and allowed me to do fine detail and broader painting. My intent with the base was to create something that resembled Minecraft grass, but I overestimated my skills. To break up my failed grass, I decided to paint some patches of dirt and some random flowers. Again, the brush's belly was able to absorb a lot of paint, which flowed fairly well. These brushes are supposed to be the best of the best. Natural bristles and ranging from $16.33 to $454.99 for the biggest size of this brush at the time of recording at Blake. I got these at a much lower price, but that is a whopping price for a brush. Okay, so here's my review. The reason I wanted to get these brushes was because all my synthetic brushes have bent tips. And the number 2 was great at holding on to paint and allowing me to paint longer, but it lost its form after a while. But with a little bit of water and a paper towel, I was able to get its shape back. Unlike my synthetic brushes, I was able to do finer details because its point never bent. The 0 brush was my favorite. It was the best of both worlds, allowing me to paint bigger by painting longer and getting into the nooks and crannies of the model with its fine tip. I highly recommend this one. The 00 was great, but my least favorite of the 3 because I could do most of the things I wanted to do with this brush with the other 2. The brush flared out more than the 0, but kept the paint flowing longer than the synthetics like its bigger brothers. My final conclusion is, for budget painting, the number 2 is not worth $20. You can achieve everything that this brush can do with the Hobby Lobby brush of the same size. I don't think the convenience of painting longer without needing a refill is worth the $15 premium. The same sentiment also goes for the 00, as the 0 can do most of the things the 00 does for cheaper. At the time of recording, the 0 is $16 and the 00 is $20. My recommendations are as follows. For budget painting 3D models, I will continue to buy the Hobby Lobby synthetic brushes, but get yourself the 0 from Winsor Newton for small details like eyes, teeth, and claws, and many other uses, as this is a great brush. Okay, if you made it this far in the video, please enjoy the B-roll of Bulbasaur. Okay, ladies and gents, if you made it this far into the video, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. If you're a continued subscriber, you're always appreciated. Please take care of yourselves and your loved ones. God bless and peace.